Welcome to the first episode of 4 with Fakhoury. The purpose of this series is to discuss illegal detention and hostage-taking overseas. Our last hostage spotlight shared the story of Majd Kamalmaz, an American therapist who was abducted in Syria almost 5 years ago. Majd immigrated to the States when he was about 6 years old, and he's lived practically his entire life here. He is a humanitarian who has devoted his life to helping others. He's opened up clinics around the world in order to help victims of tragic events heal from their trauma. While Majd was working in one of his clinics overseas, he receives a phone call from relatives letting him know that a close loved one had just passed away in Syria. Majd sets a trip for February 14, 2017 to go to Syria and pay his condolences. Majd enters the country legally and has no issues upon arrival. He calls his wife that night and lets her know that he had safely arrived and that he will update her the next day. That was the last time the family ever hears from Majd. Majd was abducted in broad daylight at a Syrian checkpoint in Damascus. The family has not seen or heard from Majd in almost 5 years now. Majd was not an activist. He was never politically involved. He didn't have a single charge against him. We strongly believe the only reason he was taken is because of his American citizenship. Majd is not the only American hostage that Syria has right now. Austin Tice, an American journalist, was abducted in 2012. America has provided almost $13.5 billion to Syria in assistance. America is one of the largest donors to the Syrian crisis. And this is all while 2 Americans are being unjustly held there and most likely being tortured, and while their families living here in the States are suffering both emotionally and financially. Now, this isn't to say that we shouldn't provide assistance to victims under the Assad regime. However, a recent study done by the Center for Strategic and International Studies documented how the Assad government pockets more than half of every dollar that enters the country through aid. So while the Assad government and its inner circle continues to live that elite lifestyle, according to the UN, more than 90% of Syrians are living in poverty. After a decades-long war, the Assad regime is still standing and is now looking into rebuilding ties with neighboring countries. And here's the thing, we understand that there's so much politics going on in that region, and that when negotiations do happen, there's so much on the table. However, the facts are that there are 2 Americans being unjustly held by Syria and are most likely being tortured. Any negotiation that happens between America and Syria should prioritize American hostages. Right now, Austin Tice has been held in Syria throughout 3 different presidencies, and not a single one of them was able to get him out. In fact, more Americans were taken by Syria during this time. Why does Syria feel so comfortable to use innocent American citizens as leverage against one of the largest donors to the Syrian crisis?